What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. Pretty much a year ago I made a video called The Good, The Bad and The Worrisome about a game called The First Descendant. I think that's it over there. This video was based on feedback from my side on a beta that we were able to play around September, October of that year. I think I released a video on the 28th of October 2022 or something like that. And in this video I essentially detailed the things which I enjoyed about this beta, about this game, but I also listed some concerns and things which I hoped that they would address and that they would change, and also just some general concerns that I had with, like for example, monetization in the game. Now almost a year later we again had an opportunity to play the game, and this new beta was essentially an answer from their side, from the developer side, to address some of the concerns that had been mentioned by many players of the game, and therefore this was going to be the best version of the game that we have available right now in beta form, and obviously a kind of like a good indication as to where the game is going. And when it eventually launches, it will most likely launch in a semi-near state to this. I'm assuming that's next year in 2024 somewhere, but I wanted to in a way continue on with this video and maybe, you know, close the loop on this and address some of the points which I mentioned in that video, but also close the loop on exactly what I experienced in this beta, see if some things had in actual fact changed, and just if my mind about this game changed in any way. So first things first, just in case you are not aware of what The First Descendant is, this is a looter shooter very much in the vein of something like Destiny or Warframe or Outriders. At the very least, these are the kinds of games that it's being compared to, either by the studio themselves or by people who are interested in this game and have actually tried it out. As I mentioned before, what I'd like to do for this video today is actually look back at some of the points which I covered in that original video and address to where our landing point sits now, like what has actually changed with the beta that we just had in September, and is the game in a better state or worse state, or essentially, you know, nothing's changed. Now, originally in that first video, basically what I had mentioned as pros, things which I really enjoyed, was the gunplay, and I really enjoyed the class variety, and last but not least, I also found it really good that the developer was so engaging with the feedback live that they were getting from the beta. Back then in 22, there was huge issues with you know, graphical stability and the fact that there was almost no settings and things that you could adjust. But there were also some connectivity issues, and these were very fast dealt with by the developer, and that really gave me a sense of, you know, like comfort, the fact that it feels like this is a, I mean, of course, look, the developer, it's a beta, they're gonna be responsive. I mean, I'm not trying to heap praise onto something which you kind of like expect in any case, but unfortunately these days you sometimes have to do that because sometimes you don't really see that coming from studios. So those three things were the three things which I really felt was strong with the game. On the concerning side for me, however, was first and foremost the polish and optimization that I felt was lacking from the product. But I also had mentioned at that point that, I mean, it's kind of like given that it's a beta, so there will be some problems, but generally there were issues with certain settings not working correctly, and therefore you not being able to customize the game to such a degree that it could run on your machine. There were connectivity issues and so on, as I've mentioned before. And the point was that, of course, these are showstoppers when it comes to a game. It's not the case of like you don't like the way a gun sounds or something like that, but at least you can play the game. If you have an issue with actually functioning inside the game and being able to run the game and not crashing and all of that, then that's of course, you know, like a showstopper. Secondly, for me, the world itself and the quest design within the world was super bland. The main issues that I had was the fact that there was a lot of repetition happening. You only had let's say a handful of different kinds of objectives that you could play. The game felt kind of like Monster Closety in a way, so it was like this very big, detailed, beautiful world that they had built in, you know, Unreal Tech 5. And then it's just like barren landscapes, and as you walk in, then enemies will just teleport in and you kill those enemies and you move on, and then some more enemies teleport in. So it really felt like kind of like not lived in or something. And this is something like, let's say, just comparing it to something like Destiny, right? That's not really the case. With Destiny, you come into an area and you see enemies patrolling around and that sort of thing, and again, it feels like the world is lived in. And then last but not least, I had spent quite a bit of time talking about monetization, since The First Descendant is actually going to be a free game. At least that's still the plan the last time I checked. So the studio was going to have to recoup their money somehow for this, and of course there would be some monetization in terms of like cosmetics and stuff like that. As mentioned, it's a ridiculously good looking game and has some fantastic models and things like that, and there's a lot of fun that you can have with that. I mean, you know, if the game has Booba and they put that in, then people will buy those cosmetics, and that'll of course net them a lot of money, and this game has Booba. So those were all of my points in the previous video, and that was just a little catch up there. So let's talk about now. So first and foremost, and I'm going to get, let's say, the bad stuff out of the way. I'm going to do it in a different way around that I did with the previous video. So let's talk about firstly the things that didn't work or didn't land well or was a problem. First and foremost for me, the polish and the optimization, more specifically the optimization this time around, was even worse. Previously I had mentioned the fact that this was a Steam only demo, and you know, that kind of like explained that maybe there was some hardware configurations and stuff like that which weren't necessarily something that they were paying attention to, plus it was brand new. Having it be a full year later and having that amount of data that was available to them from the first beta, plus of course having beta testers that play in the meanwhile, while it's not an open beta, they had closed betas and stuff along the way. It still pained me the amount of issues that there were with just trying to get into the game. I would have loved to put more hours into the game, but I was physically not capable of doing that because I just couldn't launch into the game, and I would suffer crashes every time as soon as shaders were compiling, anything like that. Now, I have, how can I say, I'm fortunate that I have multiple machines inside the studio here that I can test games with. And oftentimes you'll find that a certain configuration, you know, causes an issue, and then I'll switch machines and I'll play, because I understand the fact that, you know, sometimes the drivers for one graphics card or one, you know, operating system or whatever is not as optimized as another, and I'm not gonna necessarily let that stop me from playing a game, so I'll switch machines. Now, in front of me I have two different configurations. One, I have a very high-end machine with a 4090 and all of that, and then the other one I have what I would consider less high-end but still no slouch. It's a 3080, so just one generation back. Now, with both of these machines, I suffered exactly the same problems, and at that point I actually went and got an old 2080 Ti out and tried that as well, and that still gave me the same issues. So I don't know too much about the technicality of this and exactly what drove this issue, but it seems that from last year to this year there's been a lot more emphasis on how the engine itself loads when you go into a specific area, and the crashes that I was experiencing and that I was seeing people experiencing on the Steam, you know, comment board and on Reddit and all of that was related to the fact that literally every time you go to the capital or you go to an area, shaders are recompiled, and this can cause some issues for some specific machine configurations, I suppose, and I was just one of the unlucky ones with this. Now, once I was actually able to get into the game, I didn't suffer any weird disconnects, anything like that. There was an issue that was somewhere in the middle of the beta where people were getting disconnected as soon as they went to town, but this was addressed by a hotfix by the studio, so good shit right there. This issue with crashing with the shaders happened every fucking day, many times, until somehow miraculously after the 10th or the 15th or the 20th time of trying, I was able to make it in.
How the fuck does something like this happen?
I don't know what changed the result. I tried many different, as I mentioned, machines, but I also tried different configurations of settings, dropping my settings all the way down to low and then sort of bringing the settings back up. By the way, I'm spending way too much time on this one fucking point to talk about it, but this was by far the thing that aggravated me the most about this experience. If this was the first beta, if this was the first open beta, if this was the first chance that they were opening up the floodgates to this game, to the public with many different configurations of machines to try out, then it would have been slightly more forgiving. But this was a full year after the last fucking open beta, and there was just a lot more chance for them to sort of prepare themselves for this sort of thing. And if we're this late into the game development cycle, and if this thing launches in Q1 of 24, I don't know how much of this shit is going to be dealt with, so we might just end up with the same fucking problems. Secondly, and I mean, it feels like I'm piling on you now, but unfortunately the quest design and the world design, those problems still remain for me. This is a strikingly good looking game, especially if you have all the bells and whistles turned on and everything like that. And so it really is a pity that the game kind of feels so empty. And then when you actually do quests in the game, it seems to be a mixture of essentially the same sort of ideas, just different variations of it. So it's moving from point A to point B and killing enemies at point B, moving from point A to point B, finding something that you have to protect, then you get attacked, kill everything that attacks you, wait 3 minutes, then done. And then, you know, take something from point A to point B and go deposit it. That's kind of like the 3 different kinds of missions that you get. I'm sure there might be more, but in playing through, I would say a large part of what was available in this particular beta, this is essentially, you know, what I found to be the variety there. So this is certainly extremely grindy and not indicative of something that will keep your attention for a super long time if you're looking for new experiences the whole time. This game has a huge amount of different classes that you can play, and having to do this over and over and over again with the same classes will probably get really, really monotonous if you're that kind of person that wants to do that sort of thing. The quest design is really just not there, and it's incredibly boring, and after 6, 7, 8, 9 hours of doing the same thing over and over, it kind of just starts grinding down on you. And again, like I said, it is a shame because it is a good looking game, so moving through these spaces is not interesting at all. Then last but not least, the monetization topic. And I don't know if I want to leave this until the end of the video, but maybe I finish the end of the video with the things that I enjoyed. So let's talk about monetization. But this is most likely an area which is going to be kind of divisive for some people. And I suppose it depends on how much you let these things affect you. So the monetization in this game will, as mentioned, primarily come from cosmetics and from, you know, things that you can buy to make your character look differently, from weapon skins to character skins and so on. And there's already a lot of it in the beta, and some of it's really good looking stuff. So of course there's going to be a market for that and people are going to buy it. The second place where most likely monetization will find a foothold is in essentially what I can only refer to as pay to progress items. So to explain what I mean by this, I have to just quickly touch on one major concept of the game, and that is how you unlock additional classes in the game. And when you start out the game, you have 3 classes available to you, and then you can choose one of those 3 and you can start playing. And then as soon as you access the capital, you can start putting in research on other classes. Now, this research is kind of like a difficult process, or let's rather say a complicated process, because there's parts that you need, which you need to go out and find in the open world, and you, at least in the beta, were given those parts as rewards for finishing certain missions. But I assume that was just for the beta, and I think for the full game that's probably not going to be the case. For the full game, it's probably going to be that you need to do very specific things to earn these. Then you also need to take a currency that you earn in the game, and you need to go to a vendor and you need to put all of these things together, and then you pay to research this new character that you're trying to unlock. And there's a time assigned to this. Now, I think that this time is either always going to be the same for every character, or maybe certain characters will have a longer time to whatever. But nonetheless, this is real in-world time, like real life time. So it'll be a day or 2 or 3 or something like that. And that means that once you hand in all that stuff, you're locked in and you got to wait that time for it available. Now, in the beta, and I'm 100% sure this is going to be available in the full game, they are going to allow you to buy with real money items which can hasten this research time, which can shorten the amount of time that you have to wait for this. And in the grand scheme of things, and this is why I call it pay to progress, right? I don't think this is necessarily pay to win, because this is also this is where it gets convoluted, right? Because for some people this is pay to win, for some it's pay to progress, for some nobody gives a shit. This is a really difficult topic to discuss, and people feel so fucking strange about it. But the bottom line is that my feeling is that I don't really care if somebody spends real money and buys all the characters and buys all of the research and shit at the beginning. But what I do find irritating, and what does concern me, is that the systems are built in such a way to cater to that person and not to cater to me. So if I'm the guy who wants to grind everything out and earn it over time, then my time is heavily punished, so that it incentivizes me to become one of the other people. So all I mean by this is that if you're the kind of person that feels that yes, you do want to earn everything that this game has to offer, and you want to earn it over time, and you don't want to spend a single dime, then that can be months, possibly years of your life that's required, especially if you look at the fact that this game has certainly a lot more in common with old school Warframe when it comes to this whole mechanic than it does with something like Destiny or Outriders. It does kind of suck though, because you know that the game is designed to make you want to skip the grind and to be rather spending that money. And unless you're the kind of person that can power through that, then at some point you'll just feel like, fuck me, I really do want to see this new character, I really do want to, but I don't want to fucking have to grind 500 kills and get this item and then wait like 3 days in game, so let me just pay the $5 and fucking get it done. And I mean, that's pretty much how it works. I mean, that's how these kinds of games make their money. So the point is though that the game design is then focused on, you know, eliciting that response out of people, and therefore it means that it can be extremely grindy, it can be extremely repetitive, which is some of the complaints that I've already leveraged against the game. So that's it. And then last but not least, and I don't know if this is really an attachment to the monetization thing, but I promise I'm going to stop fucking complaining about the game just now. I do also, and I remember being slightly irked by this the first time around last year, but again, I find the upgrading paths and the menus and the things that you have to toggle and fucking check in on and apply and combine and fucking attach and stack, and you know, all this is so convoluted in this game. I don't think that it's like it's impossible to understand, but I definitely think like Johnny off the street who has like 2 hours to play games a week is going to look at this kind of shit and go like, Jesus, I have to spend like 2 hours trying to figure out how to stack mods and which mods work with what, and why can't I put this mod on this thing, and how do I combine these into make a new one, and oh my god, there's a brand new menu that I didn't see before where I have more fucking stuff that I have to slot in. And it's just, it feels a lot like a gacha game. It feels a lot like a mobile game, which is filled with a lot of busy work and a lot of things that is meant to keep you engaged with the product while not actually allowing you to really accomplish much. Games like these, looter shooters are especially guilty of this, are often the kinds of games that give you a huge amount of that FOMO feeling. Like if you spend even a few fucking days not playing this game, you feel like you're falling behind, you feel like you're not earning the stuff you should, you're not getting as many things as you should, everything. And that shit is dialed up to like 5,000 with The First Descendant, because of the fact that you were just assaulted by all of, when you go out and you just run from A to B, you just get like 50 weapons to drop for you, and these weapons are all the same but they're not, and you need to decide if you want to break them down, if you want to do that. And then once you do that, you get shards, and these shards can be slotted in here and that, and I'm carrying on too much for this, but I just think it's like it's an incredibly overcomplicated solution to something which is very straightforward, and that is like, something drops. Is it good for your character? Is it not good for your character? If it's good for your character, put it here. If it's bad for your character, put it there. Boom, done. I'm sure there are some people that enjoy this complexity in games, but I think that by far, I would say the majority of the players would agree that it's better to uncomplicate things than to make them more complicated. All right, so we survived that. Now that we've done all the complaining and all the things that we didn't like, I do want to mention some of the things which I did enjoy about the demo. I keep saying demo, but the beta, because if I didn't see something here that I enjoyed, I wouldn't have made this video. I wouldn't have persevered through all of those crashes. I wouldn't have tried to get into the game over and fucking over to keep on trying it out, because there is some stuff which are really good here. The first and foremost, and I mentioned this last year, the gunplay in this game, I really like it. I have seen some people complain and say it's not cool, they don't enjoy it, but for a game that's kind of like built on that, because I absolutely think that the majority of your damage in The First Descendant comes from your weapons, your guns that you use. Some of the characters have abilities which deal a lot of damage, but some of them have abilities which are purely, boosts and, protective and stuff like that. So they are absolutely dependent on, using their weapons. So weapons, the feedback I get from the guns are good. They sound fucking amazing. There's a huge different variety of them. They shoot different. Some shoot bursts, single fire, full auto, whatever. I'm saying again, they sound good, but goddamn, they're loud. They just, you know, they hit. And I really do enjoy that. Back with in the 2022 version, there was this issue with every time when you reloaded, your character would fucking say like, "Oh my god, new mag," or this audio feedback you get was terrible. They've taken care of that, so that's not in anymore. So I really can't complain. I think the gunplay in this game, like the gunshot and like the moment-to-moment gun shooting, is fucking top notch. The class variety itself as well, I definitely in 2022 tried out more classes. This time around I think I managed to unlock Bunny and one other class, which for some reason now I can't fucking recall the name, along with the original one that I had chosen. And look, there's a lot of variety here with the abilities and everything like that, and of course they're gonna expand on this roster like something, you know, like crazy. So you're going to be able to find a character that you really enjoy. If you want to play a big tanky class that is all about, you know, soaking up the damage and protecting the group that you're with, there's a fucking class for you for that. If you want to be DPS with guns and, you know, like grenades and all that stuff, there's a class for that. If you want to be zipping around the battlefield and, you know, shooting stuff with lightning, there's a class for that. If you want to drop huge poisonous dots on stuff and everything, there's a class for that. There's gonna be something here for every kind of way of playing a game like this that you might be looking for. So the variety is fantastic, and just the ones which were available in the beta is already massive. So you can imagine after 6 months or a year of this game being out, there's gonna be tons of these classes. And there's gonna be a lot of different ways in which you can play and enjoy this game and enjoy this world that they've basically crafted. Again, I want to make point to mention the fact that I feel like this studio, this developer, is really interested in the feedback that they get from players, because again, a very reactive beta is what we experienced. There was a lot of hot fixes, a lot of things that they were working on in the, you know, in the background to try and deal with problems that players were experiencing, and that's always like a really good thing, and that is absolutely appreciated, but also indicative of someone who really believes in their product and wants to see it succeed. And that's really going to be it for the video. As a too long didn't watch, and I should have probably put this at the beginning of the video, I have a concern, and my concern is that I'm starting to think that The First Descendant might not be for me. I might not be the target audience for it. And that's because as a whole, I'm trying to sort of like move away from these extremely grindy games, since I have less free time these days. And back in the day when I had a lot of free time and I had a lot of ways in which I could burn that free time, grindy games where I could watch something else on the background, have some music blasting, have some drinks out, everything like that, was honestly one of the best ways for me to spend my time. But these days I find myself sort of like gravitating away from that sort of thing, and that then means that this kind of game is not for me. Do I think that The First Descendant is a bad game? I don't at all. I think that it's a game that has promise and everything, and I think that over time it could develop into something special, very much the same way. If you asked me about Warframe a couple of years back, I would have said exactly the fucking same thing that I'm saying right now about this game. And I feel the same way about this game now that I do about Warframe. I think Warframe is a decent experience, and I think the people that enjoy playing Warframe really enjoy playing Warframe, and power to them. And I think the same thing is going to be for The First Descendant. I just don't think that I'm going to be one of those people, but that's also okay, because not all games are made for everyone. Nonetheless, I apologize for the extreme length of this video. I was kind of like waiting for about a week after I had done playing the beta, because I wanted to, you know, settle some of those emotions that I had, and also just wanted to get my head around it. So this is the final product. Go ahead and let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. What did you enjoy about the beta? What didn't you enjoy about the beta? Is this a game that you're looking forward to coming out? And yeah, just give me your general thoughts. As I mentioned, like, I'm sure there's some of you, and even in my Discord community, there were a couple of people who really enjoyed the beta this time around, and I think that's awesome. I think it's the most important thing is that you should enjoy the games that you play. So if you're able to do that, then you're already fucking winning the fight. Other than that, it's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Till next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the